3.1 Practice and Research Project 8. What I wanted to do in this video is to demonstrate the development of my specialist textile area. Now, since Project 6, 7 and definitely what I'm working through on Project 8, I've come to realise that once I've been reviewing my locating my textile practice, the work has taken a turn, and I've taken the work into the direction of knitting as a technique. Now, there are various types of knitting. There's traditional with wooden knitting needles, there's knitting via the hand, and in previous projects I've demonstrated knitting and using the arm for large-scale stitches and so forth. I have to confess I'm not the best knitter by hand with wooden knitting needles. So what I've decided to do, or my processes, how they have moved forward, I've made adaptations to the weaker areas of my textile technique. Now, my blog does explain that I've been working with wool, a traditional thread, and this has proven a useful material. It's very strong, it's very soft to its tactility, and as it has a great colour palette, and it comes in an array of various textures as a thread. There's some fine, there's chunky, then there's cotton, synthetic, silk. So all the possibilities with a traditional ball of thread or woolen thread, the possibilities are endless. Now, what I've done is moved slightly forward and adapted this French knitting machine. Now, for the work that I was carrying out, I think it would be quite laborious to sit there and do this by hand. This actually will do approximately a ball of wool for me, about 40 minutes to use a whole ball of wool. Once the machine is rigged up with 4 needles, the handle allows you to wind round, and as the French knitted cord, as I've explained this in my critical analysis, is weighted down, and the longer it gets, you remove the weight and add it, and this works the tension of the French knitted cord. And all you do is you can either go clockwise or anti-clockwise, and eventually, over a period of time, you are producing this very soft, flexible, larger scale thread. Now, one of the samples that has also played a major role was I adapted by combining my materials, and this approximately has taken about 3 to 4 balls of wool, and this was inserted with wire. So this French knitted cord has now become more of a flexible sample, and this has allowed me to adapt and refine the sample, as we will have seen in earlier projects where I generated masks, but also as well it plays the role of a fidget. You can squeeze it, you can pull it, it has lots of various tension, it's soft and pliable and flexible. So this as a sample makes quite a good all-round sample to be refined further and have more further investigations. So this has become a key sample in my textile making and practice, and I think this is what has initially established that I think my work will move forward now and explore further areas of knit. I think I will or I am going to expand, and I'm going to get a knitting machine and see what the possibilities are there, knitting fabric, and then obviously making experimentations, as I have done with these smaller scales, of sampling with my traditional wool thread. Now, what I've also done with this knitted French cord, it is the thin red line. The red at this present moment represents dyslexia awareness. So again, it's important that I'm making these connections. But what I also have done is I've manipulated the French knitted cord, and there we can see engaging with the circle that I've identified as that I want to work with. Again, I've started to think about using my hands as a platform for touch and feel, and to feel the tactility of the materials. As of yet, this was still an early stage sample. Parts of it are successful, and there's some areas that are not so successful with that. And then here I'd engaged in a further technique with the larger scale French knitted cord. I began to think about the idea of starting to weave the cord, and again I've played with the idea of my hands as a platform where we can manipulate and feel and touch this material, playing either with the century, because all these samples do relate to century textiles, but what I've also discovered, that from a wool thread, knitting it into a French cord does actually strengthen the material, and it can be quite taut and quite strong, and then it will return to its original shape. The wire inserted into the cord will actually make it all distorted, and I can play around with it and reshape it. I actually wrote the word earlier on in the project, dyslexia, and that was very successful. So I think this, as a constructed material, is proving very successful at the moment. But I feel that it was important at this stage to start to embrace and explain my processes and how I'm adapting my knit specifically for the areas of research that I've been filtering through and engaging, extracting from what's all around me in connections with dyslexia, any artists, any other textile practitioners that are at this point inspiring me. So then this is enabling me to devise my own textile work, but still have that connection with creativity, the playfulness, but also I think that what's happening is there is a development of some more mature sampling taking place, but I think it's also filtering through and pushing me now to make decisions, which I have found very difficult, of where my work is going to sit. But I think I can now see that it's going to be more directional with knit, but there will still be with the mixed media aspect, which will give me the investigations of what I can and what the possibilities are with the constructed materials that will be knitted.